You hear a lot about karate being an art. How did it become an art? And if it's no longer a utilitarian defense tool like a gun, does it still work? And why aren't the people doing it more artful? Through my years in the karate field, which now number 53, I've encountered almost every type of narrow individual you can think of. From the self-appointed masters of the mystical martial arts to the champions of the point tournament world and now the mixed martial arts ring, every kind of insecure personality has found itself in the karate world and continues to do so. Each group thinks that what they are doing is real and what the other groups are doing isn't real. Do you know anything about art? I mean it in the representational way, in the Gauguin and Rembrandt way, the stuff you hang on your wall and brag to your friends that you're cultured way. Art. What's that have to do with fighting? I'll tell you. For hundreds of years, art was a method of representing what somebody experienced. The better someone reproduced that, the better an artist he was judged to be. The works of painters like Rembrandt, Degas, Renoir, Manet, and even into the modern age with Homer, Wyeth, and Hopper. They all showed somebody who wasn't there, not only what it looked like to be there, but what it felt like. That takes talent. But then art took a turn. Instead of representing what the artist saw with his eyes, realism was abandoned. The subtle impressions of the subject on the part of the painter, a splash of paint was supposed to represent an object, and you accept it because that's what the oh-so-elevated artist said it was. Jackson Pollock actually dripped paint randomly onto the floor to create some of his paintings. Painting became almost synonymous with graphic design, and artistry became a little different than the invention of fabric designs or wallpaper designs. Modern art took a real razzing from the public when I was a kid, but today it's not even debatable, and it's collectible. I'd say it fits Raymond Chandler's famous quote about Los Angeles, that it has all the personality of a paper cup. How this relates to karate is this. Originally, karate was a way to rehearse responses to common violent situations. You got your muscle memory down by doing kata, preset movements, and then you practiced with a partner to simulate the kind of situation that you would face in the street. You carefully applied the dangerous techniques from the kata so you didn't kill your training partner. And then later, karate was modified to be less deadly and better for physical fitness. And because the dangerous moves were taken out, it became possible to do free sparring, which could be done as a sport, and felt much more realistic since nothing was planned. The old two-man practice became much less popular. Athletes hated kata because it was boring and didn't feel realistic. Now, anything that can be done as a sport is going to spread. And in my generation, coming up in the 1960s, tournaments helped spread the art. Later, the same people who originally felt that tournaments were more real than doing kata now felt that scoring points for blows that stopped short was also unrealistic, so they started doing contact matches. Meanwhile, kata also became a competitive sport, and today is practiced in a completely different way in order to score points. It is a theatrical performance. Almost nothing could be further from the preparation for a life and death conflict. Imagine if shooting matches were won by twirling your gun and firing it from between your legs or some other acrobatics. Now, just like the people who think nothing is real except putting on gloves and throwing hundreds of punches at each other, there are those who think that endless kata and technique practice is the real thing. In actuality, these people are scared to death of real combat. What they love is being the exalted master with the endless bag of techniques and ranks. Both these types, the technique person and the sport person, think their practice is real and the others are not. The karate world is a mess because the innocent person who wants to learn self-defense has no way of telling who has a better approach. Now, if that's you, I'll give you the straight poop right now. Karate was pretty good before they fooled with it. Some people still do that kind of karate. Why should you take my word for it? Well, I never had a large school or chain of schools where I taught a lot of techniques. I never won any tournament competitions. However, I have successfully defended myself dozens of times in real street encounters. And I've never been in what I would call a fight. People just like to pick on me. My first collection of experiences was during a brief stint as a peace officer on weekend duty at a popular bowling alley. During the week I was directing traffic, so going to a bowling alley on the weekends wasn't too bad. But I had to get the rowdies out of the building and also out of the parking lot where they liked to congregate on a Saturday night. This was complicated by the owner's insistence that I not wear my firearm in the family-friendly place. You can imagine the lack of respect for a small man in a uniform without a gun. Getting the drunks out of there suffered from what you might call a lack of cooperation. I'm a small guy, and the standard police holds that I was taught didn't work all that well for me, but karate worked really well. And in a short time, they knew to leave if I said leave. After those days, I had a lot of altercations as just a private citizen minding his own business. And I'm not talking about being in a bar and the guy next to you has had one too many. I've been ganged up on by multiple attackers multiple times. I've been clubbed. I've been knifed. And I've come out on top of all of them because my training is actually realistic. Because I didn't spend time being hypnotized into thinking that my opponent was going to be a guy bobbing and weaving in front of me in a gym. I spent time practicing clever responses to common attacks that were designed by smarter people than me. Over and over with different partners until I could make them work without any cooperation. I learned from bitter experience that the real threat is the one that comes out of nowhere when you're loading your groceries into the car. It's the crazy looking guy with the sharpened screwdriver glaring at you on the bus. It's the punk who tried to split my skull with a lead pipe when I came out of a movie theater one night. So who are you going to listen to when he says, "I'll tell you what's real"? The fighter who knocks out maybe one guy at a time wearing 6-ounce gloves? The point fighter who says, "If I hadn't held back, that would have been a killing blow"? Or the kata dancer who rarely touches another human being? Or are you going to listen to someone who has actually defended himself? What will it be? Picasso or Rembrandt? Do you want to do fight training that's like an abstract painting? Or one that's just like what you will face on the street? Here's the lesson. Old-style kata and kumite are the tandem methods for preparing for real combat. Anything else is actually unrealistic, no matter how real it looks. Luckily, some people are still doing old-style training instead of modern style, and we're still alive to pass it on. I hope you can protect yourself. Take care.